Comatose, it's good to see you, bro. How you doing? How you been? Mike, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Coming to your first one in today. How you both doing? Okay. Let's do, I think, intro, disclaimer, what we're going to talk about tonight's live. And by that time, everyone should be tuning in for the first part of the live show. So, welcome to the CMF Live if you're watching this for the first time ever. The CMF stands for Crypto Mouse Family. My name is Miles. You can tune to this live Monday, Friday, 10 p.m. London time onwards for the most recent news regarding cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, and regulations. Pretty much all the information you should know about regarding the world completely transforming into a digital space. The disclaimer of this live show, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. And also, this is episode 453 of the CMF live show I was watching right now. And also during this live show, we essentially do Q&As, which means if you do have any questions, put it down in the comment section. More than happy to help you out. And just to give you a breakdown of what we're going to go through on tonight's live, we're going to be talking about essentially some data that's came out, essentially the job reports, and also why Bitcoin is having a slight dip once again. We're also going to go through news regarding BlackRock on tonight's live. BlackRock is, you could say, not doing too well, pretty much. We're going to talk about essentially Vancouver's mayor regarding the crypto space. We're going to talk about Canada, the Bank of Canada regarding the crypto space. We're going to talk about the Bank of essentially Kazakhstan regarding the crypto space as well. We're also going to talk about on tonight's live regarding the New York BIT license, which is offered to essentially blockchain firms. Another firm just received one. We're going to go through news regarding Binance on tonight's live as well. We're going to go through news on the US, Israel, and Iran war, and essentially, the impact it's still having on the market spaces. We're also going to talk about tonight's live, obviously, for essentially regarding some Ripple news as well. Now, the first news essentially being regarding Bitcoin's ever so slight dip. And we did discuss it yesterday as well regarding essentially Bitcoin having some sort of a dip. And it had to do essentially with profit taking, which is exactly what's happening again. Once again, profit taking is essentially what's pushing Bitcoin on the downside. It's not drastic drops inside the crypto market space, it's just slight dips. Now, before we talk about the first news, let's go inside the comment section first. This was happening there. And then straight into the first Bitcoin crypto news. We were at here, I think. Yep. What about the CMF? Almost first again. Let's go, Ray. How you doing, brother? Hello, Miles. How you, brother? I'm doing great. T. How you doing, Mike? Let's go. Evening. Good evening, Miles of CMF. Free and forever. Good to see you. How you doing? Good evening, Miles of CMF. Bullock Soppy. Good to see you. How you doing? Hey, Miles of CMF. Scott. Good to see you, brother. How you doing? Good evening, all, and happy Friday. Let's go, JP. How you doing, brother? Share the live. Let's go, Scott. Hello, Miles of family. Lena, good to see you. How you doing? Check out Miles of Substacks. Let's go, Scott, for saying that. If you haven't checked out my Substacks, go and check them out. Also, I have another news regarding the CMF. I've also launched essentially the CMF live shows on Spotify. So if you are somebody that has Spotify, if you are someone that listens to Spotify or subscribe to Spotify and so on, you can now essentially listen to essentially in terms of a podcast form to the CMF live shows on Spotify as well. So I just want to share that with everyone. I'll share it again once more at the end of the live show as well, just in case anybody missed the announcements right now. But I also have launched the CMF live shows on Spotify. So if you want to go check them out, you can check them out there too. I'll share the link essentially inside a Telegram group after this live show. I'll share the link on X as well for the CMF live show on Spotify. Big announcement there. Morning Miles, we're leveling up. We went from TikTok to YouTube and X, and then Substacks, and now Spotify. So incredible news, honestly. Morning Miles of CMF. Shelly, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Check out Miles of Substacks. Let's go, Scott. Thank you so much for saying that. Good evening, Miles. How you doing? I'm doing great, Kelly. Good to see you. How you doing? Hi, Miles of CMF. Hope everyone is good. Let's go, Ronnie. How you doing, brother? Evening Miles and CMF, Manny, good to see you as well. How you doing? Evening Miles and CMF, let's go, Joe. How you doing? By the way, thank you so much to everybody who has essentially liked and retweeted this live show. CMF members, thank you so much to everyone who has liked and retweeted this live show. If you haven't, drop a like and drop a retweet. If you watch us on YouTube, drop a like as well. Put a comment outside the live. That's a great idea, Miles. Thank you so much, Shelly, for saying that. Spotify as well, outstanding, brother. Keep up the great work. Let's go, Ray. Thank you so much for saying that as well. Now, the first news on tonight's live is regarding Bitcoin's fall. So here it is. Bitcoin's fall essentially below $70,000 as short-term holders are taking profit. When Bitcoin decided to climb ever so slightly, people started taking profits. But we still do have inflows coming in from the institutional side in terms of Bitcoin ETFs, but people are taking profits essentially separate from essentially ETF inflows. Bitcoin has slipped below the psychological level of $70,000 threshold as a wave of profit taking from short term holders hit the market following weeks of upward momentum. And this retracement essentially comes after a period of intense speculation, with data suggesting that as swing traders essentially who entered the markets during the recent rally are now essentially liquidating their positions to lock in gains. While the dip has caused a minor trauma essentially in the retail sentiment, prominence of the utility era view this as a necessary consolidation phase for the financial plumbing of the digital economy to stabilize essentially before the next leg up. The move below $70,000 highlights several technical behavioral essentially shifts within the current market cycles. Exhaustion of momentum. After failing essentially to decisively break the previous all-time highs, the lack of immediate buy-side catalysts led to a neutral exhaustion, essentially triggering automated sell orders as the $70,000 support level gave way. Rotation to value. On-chain analytics also indicate that while short-term speculators are exiting, long-term holders and institutional desks are using a dip to accumulate, viewing the sub $70,000 price as a streak entry point. Also, leverage flush, the flipping of the switches as selling pressures essentially resulted in the liquidation of millions in leveraged long positions, effectively essentially cleansing the markets of excess forth that had been built up during the essentially push of the Genius Act. Now, market analysts also suggest that the current drawdown is a typical mid-cycle correction rather than essentially some fundamental shift inside the crypto landscape, as also the US Clarity Act continues to provide a roadmap for institutional essentially integration. The underlying demand for Bitcoin as a primary reserve asset remains robust. Traders essentially are now closing and essentially closely watching the $67,000 to $68,000 essentially range for signs of definitive essentially bounce as the market recalibrates in anticipation of the next wave of corporate and sovereign adoption news. So, to add on top of that, we've also had data come in terms of the job reports. It wasn't great. That's added more pressure essentially onto Bitcoin. Also, the dollar getting strengthened during this war hasn't played out very great for Bitcoin either. So not only do we have people taking profits essentially on Bitcoin, we also have this war essentially strengthening the US dollars, but we also essentially have the essentially retail section jumping out while the institutional section whales are buying their places out. Now, and the reason why you don't see a massive jump in Bitcoin while there's sell-offs happening is because the amount of sell-offs compared to buy-ins aren't that great. Now, putting that to one side, the biggest essentially corporation in the entire world, the biggest behemoth in the entire world, is having some trouble, and that is BlackRock. BlackRock's private credit fund, essentially crack, hits crypto prices and DeFi markets. A sudden liquidity crunch in BlackRock managed, essentially private credit funds, has sent a shockwave through the digital asset ecosystem, leading to a sharp decline in both major crypto prices and decentralized finance yields. This crack in a high profile institutional vehicle highlights the growing essentially interconnectedness between traditional shadow banking and also the modern financial plumbing of the utility era. As the fund essentially faced unexpected redemptions and pressures, the resulting essentially forced a de risking phase across global markets, proving essentially that even the most robust institutional on ramps remain in terms of speculation to traditional credit cycles. The impact on crypto native landscapes underscores the several systematic vulnerabilities during this transition. DeFi collateral stress. As BlackRock fund essentially face instability, automated DeFi protocols saw a surge in liquidations as tokenized credit positions, often used as high quality collateral, began to lose partially. Institutional deleveraging. The flipping essentially of switches from accumulation to preservation by major desks led to a synchronized sell off in Bitcoin and also Ethereum as funds scrambled for pristine liquidity to cover traditional margin calls. Regulatory scrutiny. This event essentially is expected to accelerate debate surrounding the US Clarity Act as lawmakers look to ensure that private credit mounts do not create systematic backdoors that destabilize the emerging digital economy. Despite the immediate market essentially drawdowns, analysts suggest that this represents a stress test for the essentially integration of real world assets into the essentially blockchain networks. While the link between BlackRock caused a temporary panic and a transparent nature essentially of on chain settlements allowed for a faster sorry about that, a faster resolution essentially of the risk compared to the legacy banking blockades of previous eras. As the market stabilizes, the focus shift essentially towards building more resilient cross-chain buffers to prevent future essentially private credit rumors from spilling over to 24/7 global essentially liquidity pools of the crypto market space. So BlackRock, the biggest behemoth inside the financial sector, is on shaky ground, you could pretty much say. I mean, everybody saw everything coming, in terms of banks struggling as the crypto companies pick up and regulations coming, Trump's administration supporting the crypto sector, and so on. Not that many people saw BlackRock on shaky grounds. That's also weighed in on the crypto market space, being on some sort of shaky grounds right now. Is BlackRock going to survive these shaky grounds? Yes, it's BlackRock. Even if they don't, they'll probably get bailed out by the government, to be fairly honest. Now, just like NatWest Bank did by the UK government. Now, Vancouver is what we're going to talk about next on tonight's live. Vancouver's mayor Bitcoin investment proposal blocked by the city. So, Vancouver's mayor, essentially Ken Sim's ambitious proposal to diversify the city's essentially investment portfolio with Bitcoin has hit a significant legal roadblock, as both essentially and both the municipal essentially and provincial regulations currently prohibit the purchase of volatile digital assets. Despite essentially same advocacy for a Bitcoin-friendly city, legal experts have clarified that existing statutes mandate that taxpayer funds must be held in low-risk traditional financial instruments, not technically digital assets. This clash highlights a growing friction point inside the utility area where forward-thinking local readers are also attempting to flip the switches on digital adoption only to be restrained by the rigid financial plumbing of the old guard essentially legal system. The rejection of the proposal underscores several systematic hurdles facing decentralized assets at the local government level. Statutory also limitations and current essentially laws in British Columbia strictly limit essentially investments to highly rated government bonds and GICs, effectively creating a banking essentially blockade against non-traditional assets like essentially Bitcoin. Critics of the mayor's plan also argue that the inherent volatility of crypto assets pose essentially a unpredictable essentially risk to public funds, particularly during periods of intense geopolitical stress and unconditional surrender. Also, the prominence of the plan suggests that without a Canadian equivalent to a US Clarity Act, local governments will remain tethered to outdated investment models that fail to capture the growth of the digital economy. This could actually push essentially, Canada into to accept cryptocurrencies in terms of creating regulations now, because the mayor of Vancouver wants to introduce the idea of Bitcoin to the citizens, which I think is a good idea. But I think it's a better idea if you introduce cryptocurrencies, not just Bitcoin. But also, this might push Canada to create some sort of crypto regulations down the road now that America's obviously, has that clarity that's going on. Despite the immediate setbacks, Mayor Samer's move is being viewed as a significant outrun window shift for the North Americans. Analysts also suggest that as the Genius Act and other essentially pro-innovation policies gain traction inside the United States, this could put pressure on Canada to create some sort of rules and regulations that are on par level of the Clarity Act or the Genius Act. Vancouver remains essentially on the sidelines of the sovereign essential adoption race, but the debate has sparked a national conversation about the role of Bitcoin essentially in 2026 global economy and the necessities of upgrading the nation's aging financial infrastructure. Good. That has become a national debate right now in Canada that they need crypto regulations to be able to compete with the American, essentially, with the American rules and regulations of the crypto space or any other country out there. I mean, the EU has their regulations, Singapore, Japan, and so on and so on. And Canada is just like the United Kingdom, they're lacking behind right now. But on the topic of Canada, the Bank of Canada is doing something interesting. So the Bank of Canada, the largest bank essentially, competes for the first ever tokenized bond trial. So, as Canada is now finally having conversations about crypto regulations, and they're looking at the Americans going, they have a Clarity Act, they have a Genius Act, they're discussing it. Maybe we should have something similar. The Bank of Canada has decided to take a step inside the digital world. The Bank of Canada, in collaboration with the nation's largest financial institutions, has successfully completed its first trial of tokenized bonds, essentially marking a significant leap forward towards the utility era in North America by essentially moving traditional debt instruments onto a distributed ledger. The pilot demonstrates that the financial plumbing of the bond market can be significantly streamlined and reducing settlement times from days to mere seconds. This achievement also suggests that the flipping of the switches for institutional, essentially blockchain adoption, is moving beyond theoretical research and into the functional core of sovereign and also debt management. The trial highlighted several key advantages of integrating tokenization into legacy banking systems. The use of smart contracts allowed for the simultaneous exchange of cash for bonds, eliminating the counterparty risk typically associated with the multi-day clearing cycles of the old guard system. Participants reported a drastic reduction in administrative overhead as the shared ledger acted as essentially a single source of truth, removing essentially the need for manual recalibration between disparate bank databases. Tokenizing high quality collateral like government bonds enables a more fluid movement of capital across the global economy, aligning with the transparency goals seen in the proposed essentially US Clarity Act. Analysts view this successful Canadian pilot as a clear signal to the global markets that modernization of global financial infrastructure is also accelerating. As the Genius Act gains momentum inside the United States, this cross border progress reinforces the narrative that tokenized securities will soon become the standard for international finance. While geopolitical tensions and unconditional surrender theoretics may cause short term essential market volatility, the underlying transition towards a fully digital and automated bond market appears to be reaching a point of no return for the world's central banks. So it's nice to see Canada finally taking some steps. Sure, their politicians are finally having discussions about crypto regulations and trying to get something on paper, but at least their central bank is taking steps ahead. And it took one step for tokenization of bonds, and it was successful. And they loved the entire test. They loved the entire test of, no more manual work. It's all automated and it's all transparent on the ledger. Now, moving on from Canada's central bank to another country's central bank. But before we talk about that, let's go inside the comment section first. Let's see what's happening there, and then straight into the next news on tonight's live. So let's see where we're at. Well done, Miles. Thank you so much, Lena. Good evening, Miles and family. Ian, good to see you. Well, how you doing, Ian? Could this be the beginning of something bigger, given the oil fallout and repercussions? Yes. Okay. Regarding the oil situation in the war that's going on in the Middle East right now between Iran and the US and Israel, oil prices could possibly surge. That could, they have surged ever so slightly. They could surge even more. There is one company that only essentially insures the shipping containers that carry the oil barrels through the Strait of Hormuz. British company named Lloyd's. They decided not to essentially insure any shipping containers going through the Strait of Hormuz since Iran said they're going to close the Strait of Hormuz. And the US decided to put their US aircrafts there so shipping containers could go past. That maybe could stabilize essentially the pricing. And also, the UK just lost one of their biggest businesses pretty much to date. Lloyd's essentially 2% of the British, essentially UK's GDP comes to 2% of it comes essentially from Lloyd's, and for some odd reason they decided to go against Donald Trump. It's not odd reason. I'll be very honest. There's a syndrome that's going around. There's a disease. and it's called essentially, and anybody can catch this disease, just to be fairly honest. And you might be thinking, so is this COVID or something? No. This disease is called I hate whatever Trump does, good or bad. So Trump essentially, is actually doing a good thing in this war by taking out the rat regime in essentially in Iran. But obviously, there's people that hate Trump, and it's a disease. I'll be very honest. And I hate Trump's essentially disease, whatever he does. As I said previously, Trump can essentially, get rid of cancer and save the entire world, and they would still hate him. There's people that will still hate him for doing that. It's the I hate Trump disease, no matter what he does. So, that Lloyd's company essentially has just lost billions of dollars in contracts, thinking they will be doing a smart play, making Trump look bad. And the Americans are now essentially controlling the Strait of Hormuz, you pretty much say. But is it going to, essentially, on your question of, is it going to raise the price of oil? A little bit. It has raised. It could raise a bit more, but the Americans are definitely trying to stabilize the price of oil, especially having Venezuela under their essentially belt as well. That could stabilize the oil prices as well, even though 20% passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Great question, Shelley. Because oil is going up a little bit, and dollar is getting strength because of this war. Crypto is getting hurt just a little bit, and stock market not doing too great. Tech stocks doing a little bit better. Um, but yeah, share the live. Let's go. Mao's Substacks today was on point. It was something he has discussed for us for almost 3 years. Yes, I am a CMF OG now. We, i.e., the world, finds ourselves in the very same position. So let's go XRP. Let's go Scott. Even if I was in CMF, Jason, good to see you. How you doing? XRP and Ripple are perfect for all countries right now. The war, the economic conditions, etc., make it practical than ever before. I agree, Scott, 100%. I mean, XRP is the number one essentially backbone that, in during times like this could also be used as well, 100% by far. Now, the next central bank, essentially, facts, also known as the Trump derangement syndrome, is alive and well out there. Facts. Kazakhstan is what we talk about next. Most people know Kazakhstan because of Borat, but it is a real place and they do have a lot of money. And they've decided, Kazakhstan's central bank has decided to invest $350 million of their reserves into digital assets. The National Bank of Kazakhstan has announced a landmark decision to diversify its national holdings by investing $350 million of its gold and foreign exchange reserves into digital assets. This move signals a profound shift in the essentially utility era as sovereign nations begin to integrate decentralized protocols into their core financial essentially plumbing to hedge against essentially traditional fiat volatility. By transitioning essentially a portion essentially of its old gold reserves into the digital economy, Kazakhstan essentially is positioning itself as a pioneer in Central Asia, effectively flipping the switches in the Asian market space on state-level crypto adoption. This strict allocation reflects a broader trend of the nation's stakes, essentially seeking alternatives to legacy banking blockade. Now, Kazakhstan does get used by the Russians. Russia is sanctioned, so they use essentially Kazakhstan to move money about. And it's no surprise to me that Kazakhstan's decided to get involved inside the digital space because it just gives Russia more legway to be able to do what they want around essentially going around sanctions. The $350 million investment aims to bolster the country's balance sheets with high growth digital assets, reducing resilience on traditional Western centric reserves and currencies. Also, a Kazakh official noted that the investment will be managed through regulated custodians, aligning with global standards similar to those proposed by the US Clarity Act. Even Kazakhstan is taking notes of the US Clarity Act. This is what America does. America takes one step forward. Everybody looks, in terms of by everybody, I mean every jurisdiction around the world looks to see what their step is going to achieve. And if it leads to somewhere good, everybody follows. Even Kazakhstan is looking at the US right now and going, Clarity Act, interesting. Maybe we should have a Clarity Act. As a global hub for Bitcoin mining, Kazakhstan essentially central bank is leveraging its domestic essentially energy surplus to support the very digital networks it is now officially backing with sovereign capital. Analysts suggest that this sovereign on-ramp could trigger a domino effect among essentially other emerging economies looking to modernize essentially their monetary policies. As the Genius Act essentially gains momentum in the West, Kazakhstan's proactive stance demonstrates that the race Full digital asset dominance is becoming a critical pillar of 2026 global geopolitics. Also, while the market essentially processes the unconditional surrender theoretics involving other regional powers, this move essentially provides a stabilizing narrative, confirming that the long term trajectory of digital assets remains firmly rooted in institutional and state level validation. Even Kazakhstan is taking notes. Regarding Trump's Genius Act and essentially Clarity Act, which just tells you, so is everybody else. Everybody else is also listening. Kazakhstan's listening to that as well. Now, putting that to one side, New York bit license, which essentially is the equivalent of some sort of license for blockchain companies to operate essentially in New York. And the newest company to get a license is Strike. Strike has just secured a New York bit license, opening Bitcoin's financial services to state residents. Strike, the popular essentially Bitcoin Lightning Network based payments app, has officially secured the prestigious and notoriously difficult New York bit license. This regulatory milestone allows the company to offer its full suite of Bitcoin powered essentially financial services to the residents of New York, one of the world's most important financial hubs. By gaining entry into this essentially restricted market space, Strike is effectively essentially expanding the financial plumbing of the digital economy, enabling millions of new users to flip the switch on near instant, low cost, essentially global payments within the framework of the utility era. The approval marks a significant shift in the regulatory landscape for American crypto firms. Obtaining the BIT license is seen as a gold standard of compliance and signaling to legacy banking partners that Strike meets the most rigorous anti-money laundering, essentially, and consumer protection requirements there is to date. New York residents can now access Strike's unique, essentially, features, including direct deposits in Bitcoin and international essential remittances, bypassing essentially traditional banking blockades that has long hindered rapid value transfer. CEO Jack Mullers also noted that this achievement aligns with the goal of the US Clarity Act, as essentially the firm seeks to provide a transparent and federally recognized path for Bitcoin to serve as a primary layer for global settlements. Market analysts also suggest that Strike's entry into New York will increase the competition among fintech giants and traditional banks alike. As the Genius Act continues to gain traction in Washington, the successful licensing essentially of Bitcoin's only firm in major financial jurisdictions provides a powerful also blueprint for the other essentially pro-innovation startups by bridging the gap between decentralized technology and the strict essentially oversights of the New York Department of Financial Services. Strike is positioning itself as a cornerstone of the 2026 digital infrastructure, ready to lead the transition into a fully integrated global monetary system. So, another firm has just received a BIT license. This puts more pressure. The more firms that receive some sort of a license, it could either be from New York, it could be from another American state, it puts more pressure on American banks like JP Morgan to come to the table, make some sort of a deal. Because the longer these banks essentially keep on keeping the crypto space at some sort of a hostage level when it comes to the Clarity Act, and the more essentially these blockchain companies get licensings to operate or apply for a bank charter license, the worse it's getting for these banks. Because sure, the banks had some sort of leverage at the beginning when it was Biden's administration, but now they're losing leverage because it's Trump's administration. They're losing leverage because companies like Ripple, Paxos, and Circle, or so on, are applying for bank charter licenses, or other potentially blockchain firms are getting some sort of license, in this case, New York, or essentially American states are applying for some sort of a crypto essential portfolio. Day by day, the banks are losing the leverage they had day one. And the longer they take to come to the table, the worse it's going to get for them in terms of a deal. So they are playing very stupid. The banks had so much leverage day one. Now they pretty much have none, which works out very damn well for us. Now, the next news on tonight's live is regarding Binance. But before we talk about Binance, let's go to the comment section first. Let's see what's happening there. As I previously, this is live, which means if you have any questions, put it down in the comment section. More than happy to help you out. So let's see where we were at. We were here. We currently got a run on fuel in Australia. It's like toilet paper in COVID 2.0. City folks are heading to country areas to get fuel, and places have already run out. It could be a much more bigger problem. Yeah, it is very bad what's happening in Australia and what Shelley's talking about. Australian reserves in terms of fuel is not looking too great. It's it's down to the Australian government who, you know, they didn't think smartly about it in any sort of a way. They're absolute morons. To be fair, a lot of governments are, but they were absolute morons for not making sure that they didn't have the fuel reserves for situations like this. Hopefully, I think Trump will probably come through for Australia because now they also control, Venezuelan oil as well. So they could pretty much supply Australia, but it all does depend on the Australian government by playing nice with Trump. But yeah, definitely not good, what's happening in Australia. It is causing some sort of a COVID 2.0 in Australia right now with fuel. People are lining up at fuel stations and trying to, fill up their car or essentially whatever else they're carrying. Hi, Miles and CMF family. Alex, good to see you. How you doing? Hi, Miles. Hi, Miles. So when is this Clarity Act, Johnny? Well, we're waiting for the Clarity Act, and why is it taking so long? The banks is the most problem. I'm immune. Let's go, Scott. Why is Cardano owner saying bad thing about Ripple? Cardano's owner isn't essentially, okay, the reason why Cardano's owner essentially criticized Ripple is Ripple just wants to get the Clarity Act out of the way. So whatever's on table, just sign it and get it out of the way, so we can start essentially production. You could pretty much say is what Ripple's talking about. Cardano's owner is frustrated because what's on the table only benefits crypto projects that have legal clarity technically, and the only project on paper that has legal clarity is XRP. Bitcoin only has some sort of clarities because they don't know who the person is who created it, so they can't really go after them. Ethereum got their clarity under the table. XRP is the only one essentially that got their clarity on paper through a lawsuit. So whatever's on table right now in terms of the Clarity Act only benefits crypto projects that have licensings, legal clarity, and so on, which excludes ADA in other words, which is why Cardano's founder is not happy that essentially Brad or anyone else is pushing for the Clarity Act, whatever's on the table, just pass it through because it only works out well for XRP, which, if you're holding XRP, it's excellent news. Now, hi, Miles CMF. Stormy, good to see you. How you doing? Kazakhstan will always remind me of Borat, especially its national anthem song, unfortunately. Yeah, honestly, whenever this is on to Kazakhstan, they always think to themselves, essentially, Borat. Any thoughts at this time on SHX and or Flare? I asked a few weeks ago, but wanted to know if there were any changes in your thoughts. Mid-March, there's going to be something on Flare in terms of yield for XRP. That's good. SHX, nothing so far. I don't have anything on that. You think the Clarity Act will still get passed while this war is going on? Yes. I believe so, that the Clarity Act will get passed during this war. 100%. I believe the Clarity Act will get passed during this war. 100%. I do believe so. Because while everybody's so focused on the war, the Clarity Act is going to be passed on the sidelines, and then crypto is going to be used as some sort of a bypass at the same time. So, yes, 100%. This war is the perfect scenario to show crypto strength, also essentially get the Clarity Act passed. And let's just be honest with ourselves. Trump said it's passing whether you like it or not, pretty much. So going on that, it looks like it is. No forward planning whatsoever. Let's hope so. Yep, definitely regarding essentially Trump issuing Australians with fuel. Definitely. Trump issues so many executive orders. Why can't he do something to that effect to get the Clarity Act passed? Well, Scott, great question. Scott has asked inside the comment section. Trump issues so many executive orders, which is true. Why can't he do something to that effect to get this Clarity Act passed? Because every time Trump takes a step forward, the Democratic Party tries to pull him back. So Trump passes essentially something, essentially through an executive order. All of a sudden, Congress and Supreme Courts from the Democratic side are weaponized to take Trump down. Trump essentially executive order for tariffs, which is better for the American citizens because so many companies returned back to the US. The Democratic Party weaponized the Supreme Court and said, nope, it's illegal, take it back. Trump does anything, Trump takes any step forward for the American citizens or for the safety of this world, the Democratic Party pull him back. Not that Trump listens, but they try to pull him back. So when you have a president who's trying to, do his president duties, and then you have an entire party who doesn't stand up for the American people, hates the American people, they would clap and stand up for foreigners, but not for American citizens. And whatever Trump does, they try to use the Supreme Court or use judges or use anything within their power and weaponize them to go against Trump. It's difficult to get things done. It's genuinely difficult to get things done. You can't get anything done. You can, but you're just racking up Supreme Court essentially lawyers. These law battles will carry on for years, even after Trump, stops becoming president of the United States. These lawsuits will still carry on for him. That's the issue. Trump issues, yeah. So honestly, perfect question, Scott. Because a lot of people want to know, if why doesn't Trump just do it? Because every time Trump tries to just do it, the Democrats weaponize some sector of the government and pull him back again. Perfect explanation there regarding Trump. Like you mentioned, he could find a cure for cancer. Yep. Miles, the courts are conservative, though. That's no. Okay. The courts could be conservative. They could be Republican, essentially, members. They could be whatever. It's who weaponizes them. That's the issue. You could get Republicans who hate the crypto space. They could be weaponized essentially by the Democratic Party. They could be weaponized essentially by the banks. It's not about the individual itself. It's essentially sorry. It's not about the mostly about the party themselves. It's about the individual themselves. So if you think about what they're doing, for example, Trump gets tariffs, money back for the US, and brings companies back into the US, and the Supreme Court says no. Now, is that Supreme Court judge standing with the American people or standing with the Democratic Party? If Trump is bringing Rolls-Royce factories, Hyundai factories back into the US, Apple factories back into the US, and the list goes on, Honda factories back into the US, is that good for the American people or not? Yes, because it creates American jobs. So why is there a Supreme Judge saying no, send them all back? We don't want factories in the US. We don't want Americans to have jobs in the US. We don't want the billions of dollars these countries didn't pay all these years in the US. Take your money back, take your factories back. How does that work out on the positive American people? And that's what I mean. Essentially, the judge could be conservative. It's just that where is that judge standing? Is that judge standing with morals and common sense? Or is that judge just going, that's Trump, I hate him, whatever he does is wrong, I'm gonna take him down. So that's what I'm trying to get to. Trump can take so many steps forward. Unfortunately, one particular party keeps on bringing him back. So, but good question, Scott. Because a lot of people probably want to know, why doesn't he just do it? Because every time he just tries to do it, he gets sued. He's the only president in history that's been sued so many times for doing the right thing. Honestly, he's the only president that's actually putting in work, standing for his own people, standing for his own country, and he's getting sued for it. How ridiculous is that? Honestly, we have presidents and prime ministers worldwide who don't achieve anything for their countries, and they haven't been sued once. And then when you get a president who is actually helping its own country's people, who's made his own country stronger, who's created more jobs for his country, he's being sued for it. How ridiculous is that? The man is doing his job and he's getting sued for it. They've been literally not just trying to stop him, but put him in jail. Crazy work. Facts. Now, Binance is what we're going to talk about next on tonight's live. Binance tells, essentially, the Senate that no accounts sent directly to Iran. So far, we've essentially had data come in from chain analysis that over $100 billion worth of cryptocurrencies has moved through sanctioned countries, and two particular countries in mind: Iran and North Korea. $100 billion in crypto has moved between essentially Iran and North Korea, both sanctioned countries. Binance seems to be the main suspect for this entire case, that Binance is the one being used to launder money. And I'm not accusing Binance of laundering money in any sort of way, just sharing you the news. Binance has formally responded to a US Senate investigation, asserting that its internal monitoring systems show no evidence of accounts transferring cryptocurrency directly to Iranian entities. So Binance has come out and said, we have nothing on our databases showing we're sending money to Iran, the Iranian government, or essentially the Iranian government is using Binance. But they are being investigated right now. Binance is apparently being investigated by the US right now. The exchange's legal team provided detailed compliance data to lawmakers, emphasizing that their firewall prevention protocols are designed to block IP addresses and KYC documentation associated with sanctioned jurisdictions, which is good. This high stakes testimony arrives as the utility era faces intense scrutiny over the role of the digital asset financial plumbing in bypassing essentially international trade blockades and the effectiveness of current know your transition standards. The exchange's defense essentially highlights the technical complexities of policing essentially decentralized networks while maintaining a pro innovation stance. While Binance denies direct transfers, the probe is focusing on nested services and intermediary wallets that may have moved funds through the exchange before reaching these sanctioned destinations. So they're pretty much saying that, sure, maybe, Iranian government members or diplomats didn't just directly sign up to Binance and move crypto around, but maybe they used third parties through Binance, not the employees, but essentially people that were playing the middleman role of essentially money laundering through Binance. None of this makes crypto look good, by the way. It's in its briefing, Binance showcased essentially new real-time monitoring switches that flags suspicious patterns, arguing that the compliance infrastructure is now superior to of that and many of essentially the legacy banking institutions, which is good. Binance is showing US lawmakers right now that they have safeguards in place, that they, flag suspicious activity on their exchanges, and, essentially just in case something illegal is going on. The firm expressed support for the US Clarity Act framework, suggesting that federal standardization would help eliminate essentially regulatory arbitrary currently exploited by bad actors in the global economy. Legislators remain cautious, citing recent reports of surging sanctions and invasions across the broader crypto market. The Senate committee is expected to cross reference Binance's data with independent blockchain analytics to determine if the flipping of the switches for illicit flows essentially occurred through more opaque decentralized protocols. As the 2026 election cycle heats up, the outcome of this probe will likely influence the final language of the Genius Act, as Washington seeks to balance the growth of the digital asset economy with the rigorous enforcement of national security interests. Okay, regarding Binance, I don't think essentially Binance willingly essentially let the Iranian government, move money around through their exchange. I don't believe that for a second. Knowing the Iranian government, as I'm essentially Iranian. I know how, up to a certain extent, how the Iranian government essentially operates. Any Iranian, if you ask any Iranian who isn't with the Iranian government, like me, I'm not with the Iranian government. I don't support the Iranian government. I've never supported the Iranian government, and they're all rats. And I'm so happy America and Israel are taking them out one by one. Just want to point that out. Now, if you're an Iranian, you know how the Iranian government operates. So do I believe essentially, Binance is willingly doing this? No. Knowing the Iranian government, they're probably using third-party people as the middleman to transfer money through Binance in and out. Binance is just taking the blow for it because the Iranian government decided to use Binance as one of the biggest world's exchanges out there. So I don't think Binance is doing this willingly. Iran is definitely using middleman essentially to move money around in Binance. $100 billion is a ridiculous amount, to be fairly honest. Now, also, if we get rules and regulations, is that going to stop money laundering in this world? Be very honest. It might slow it down essentially through crypto exchanges, but it wouldn't fully stop it. It's the same with fiat, even though we have decades of regulations in place for the fiat system, we still have money laundering happening in today's world. Even with the fiat, system having decades of regulations in place. Same scenario for essential cryptocurrencies. Even if we have regulations in place, is that going to fully stop money laundering? No, it wouldn't. This world operates in two formats: clean money and bad money, and essentially dirty money. And clean money will always be there, and bad money will always be there as well. That's just how this world spins, and it's never going to change. Now, no deal with Iran is what we're going to talk about next. Donald Trump and the impacts on the crypto market space. Before we talk about that, let's go inside the comment section first. Let's see what's happening there, and then we go straight into the next news on tonight's live. Okay, we were here. I wish we had Trump here. Saying honestly, the world would be such a better place with having Trump as your essentially country's leader. I wish we had Trump in the UK. I'll be very honest. He's a great leader. Maybe that's some of the billions in cash that the Democratic and Obama sent laundered to Iran. Diabolical. Facts. Absolutely facts. Obama, who is an absolute weasel. A lot of people supported Obama, and I thought, day one, he was an all right person. He looked quite genuine person. As it went past, as the days went past, I realized Obama is a weasel. And when I realized that, it was essentially when people were protesting, as they were protesting now inside of Iran, and the Iranian government slaughtered pretty much its own people, even back then during Obama's time. And instead of Obama telling Iran, don't do it, or, say something to stop the Iranian government from essentially, taking out its own people, Obama decides to send billions of dollars to Iran for no apparent reason. And the money that he sent, yes, it technically belonged to Iran, but it didn't belong to this regime. It belonged to the Shah. It belonged essentially under the Reza Pahlavi, essentially, era of Iran before 1979, essentially. So when people were protesting in Iran, going, "We want freedom," and then they got taken out for it by the Iranian government back then, Obama decided back then to give Iran billions of dollars. And that's when I realized, wow, Obama's a weasel. And then you fast forward to Biden's era. Again, people protested in Iran. They said, "We want freedom." And then again, the people of Iran got taken out by the government. Again. And what did Biden say? Don't do it, stop, or so on. Biden said once, don't do it, but I think he's half asleep. Biden sent also billions of dollars to the Iranian government, the same government that slaughtered its own people. And by the way, these billions of dollars are all tax-paying money. So, honestly, facts regarding, diabolical, absolutely facts, what essentially Ray said, the billions of dollars the Democratic Party sent to Iran, absolute diabolical. The Democratic Party should just be named I Hate America Party. Honestly, the Democratic Party should just change their name to the I Hate American Party because it just fits them perfectly. Will they stand up for American citizens? No. Will they ever support American jobs? No. Will they create more American jobs? No. Will they care about American people's safety? No. Do they care about American veterans? No. So what does the Democratic Party stand for again? This is what I mean. The Democratic Party should just change their name to the I Hate American Party because it just fits them perfectly. Because they couldn't care less to stand up for veterans, their citizens, create more jobs for American safety. They couldn't care less. Maybe, a reminder to check out Miles's daily Substack. Scott, thank you so much for saying that. All the presidents have sent money to governments, not just Obama, which is true. Yes, they have. But it's the timing they sent the money, Scott. That's the issue. It's the timing. And you shouldn't send billions of dollars to a country that's daily for 4 hours a day saying death to America. Who in their right mind sends $46 billion to a country that chants death to America for 4 hours a day. Who in their right mind signs that? And that's what Obama did. And that's what Biden did. Obama and Biden sent billions of dollars of tax-paying money to a country where the government chants death to you. They're saying death to America, and America during Obama and Biden's time is giving them billions of dollars. Make it make sense. And that's why, why I said it's different. Yes, America sends billions of dollars to every country, but sending billions of dollars to a country that's chants death to America 4 hours a day is stupid. There's no other word for it. It's just stupid. We are taxpayers, pay the tap. We're looking at Q2 now, or Q3 for this essentially supposed bull run for 2030. Don't worry about it. Things will move a lot more faster. Money laundering will never be stopped. Essentially, money laundering will never be stopped. How do they move so much money? Where there's such rights restrictions for you and me? They move so much money because they move it through money exchanges, and they move it through Qatar or the UAE. It's easier to move money there. How do they move? Yeah, tight restrictions. Yeah. We had a group of white men in inauguration night planning to make his failed president as law. Now it doesn't negate what Obama may have done, but let's keep it real. All Democrats do not hate America. I probably say the same about many Republicans. So quick blaming shares. By the way, I'm not saying people who support Democrats. I'm saying the Democratic politicians. Yep, Obama straight weasel, smooth talking lawyer. He planned this all part. Clearly not, but almost at the party that hates America, subconsciously all facts, yes. During Desert Shield and Desert Storm, similar things happened, and we had a Republican president. And how do I know? I was there. Let's go, Scott. But yeah, by the way, when I say Democrats or Republicans, I'm never talking about the people who support them. I'm just talking about the politicians. Because people are people. It's the politicians that essentially create the regulations. Now, no deal to Iran is essentially what Trump has said right now, and that's putting a strain on the entire market space as well. So, no deal with Iran. Trump demands unconditional surrender, sending oil surging and Bitcoin lower. US dollar is getting strengthened, oil is going up in price, and Bitcoin is feeling the pressure right now because of this war. President Trump has taken a hardline stance against Tehran, explicitly stating that there will be no deal and demanding an unconditional surrender regarding Iran's nuclear ambitions and regional activities. This aggressive shift in foreign policy has sent shockwaves through global markets, causing oil prices to surge on fears of supply disruptions in the Middle East. Also, as the utility era faces first major geopolitical stress test, the resulting of the risk of sentiment essentially has triggered a sharp sell-off in both equities and Bitcoin, as investors flee towards the safety of the US dollars and traditional essentially energy hedges. The escalating essentially tensions have immediate implications for the global financial plumbing and digital asset volatility. The spike in oil prices is rising concern about the persistent inflation, about essentially which could complicate the Federal Reserve's path and dampening the flipping of the switches for further institutional crypto adoption. Despite the digital gold narrative, Bitcoin's recent correlation with high growth tech stocks has seen it essentially fall alongside the Nasdaq as essentially traders prioritize liquid cash over volatile assets during wartime theoretics. The administration's demand for the surrender is expected to be accompanied by the maximum pressure campaign, likely involving stricter, essentially, oversight of crypto based sanctions evasions under the US Clarity Act. Market analysts also essentially suggest that the Genius Act and other pro innovation domestic policies may take a backseat as the White House essentially focuses on national security and energy independence, while the long term cases for decentralized assets remain tied to a rejection of legacy banking blockades. The immediate term essentially is dominated by the reality of geopolitical friction as the world watches. Iran's response to the digital economy remains in defensive posture, with traders closely monitoring the $65,000 support level for Bitcoins amidst the broader unconditional surrender fallout. The faster we get to the ending of this war, we're going to be seeing crypto rise in price. The reason why we would see the cryptocurrency market rise in price at the ending of this essentially Iran and US war is because the Iranian government, when the entire essentially government collapses, they will be trying to push their money into something so they can take it with them as they run away from the country. Already, we've had a lot of diplomats from Iran, from the Iranian regime, run away from Iran. Already had many people from the Islamic Republic of Iran take money with them and run. And the more that happens, the more we're going to be seeing price swings on the upside inside the crypto sector, because they can't, some are actually, believe it or not, some are actually taking suitcases full of $100 bills with them and escaping the country right now. The countries that are accepting them mostly is Canada and the UK and Spain and France, essentially, is the ones that are accepting these diplomats right now, the Islamic Republic of Iran's governments. The Iranian people themselves, they're actually staying inside the country. Every country that pretty much got attacked during these war times and had their dictators fall, millions of their people fled. The opposite is happening here. No Iranian is fleeing Iran right now. Not a single one, pretty much. They're all staying in Iran, waiting for the regime to collapse so they can take over. So the closer we get to this regime collapsing, the more we're going to see price swings in cryptocurrencies, because they're going to be pushing their money into crypto and trying to take it with them outside the country. Now, and we've seen which crypto projects have chosen, particularly is Bitcoin, XRP, and USDT on Tron network. Because I'm guessing XRP because it's the fastest and the cheapest, USDT on Tron network because it's what people use when they're money laundering, and also Bitcoin because we don't know who the founder is, so it's difficult and to stop them or pinpoint who it is. Now, on the topic of XRP, US XRP ETF inflows essentially hit a 4-week high as Australia taps XRP ledger for digital dollar. Not only is essentially Australia tapping for XRP, essentially digital dollar, which you might have seen essentially the news, but also something else is happening as well. Ripple essentially got some other approval inside the United Kingdom. Essentially, they were celebrating it. Ripple's CEO from Ripple's essentially UK headquarters came out, essentially did a big speech about it. They were excited, they were jumping up and down, celebrating that, Ripple has been able to take another leap forward, not just in the European market space, but also in the British market space as well. On top of that, you might have seen this news being going around. Institutional demand for XRP is surging as US-based spot XRP ETFs recorded their highest weekly inflows in over a month. This uptick essentially in professional accumulation suggests that the flipping of the switches for Wall Street is accelerating as fund managers look to gain exposure to the underlying asset, the XRP ledger. Investors are increasingly viewing XRP as a primary pillar for their utility era, betting on essentially its role as an essential financial plumbing for the next generation of global settlements and cross-border liquidity. This bullish momentum is being driven essentially by significant international adoption and shifting regulatory landscapes. The Reserve Bank of Australia has officially selected the XRP ledger to pilot its retail, essentially central bank, essentially digital currency, CBDC, marking a massive win for the protocol's credibility at the state level settlement layer. Institutional confidence. The spike in ETF inflows follows the continued progress essentially for the US Clarity Act, which has provided a legal certainty necessary for tier 1 banks to integrate XRP into their digital asset offerings. Australia's choice underscores the XRP ledger's superior speed and low cost compared to legacy banking blockades, positioning it as a global standard for tokenized national currencies. As the Genius Act moves essentially closer to becoming law, analysts expect the current inflow trend to persist, potentially driving XRP to challenge its previous all-time highs. The integration of XRP Ledger into Australia's digital dollar project serves as a powerful proof of concept for other nations also looking to modernize their financial systems, with the US government signaling essentially a more pro-innovation stance and the flipping of the switches from more experimental pilots to full-scale sovereign essential adoption appears to be the defining theme of the 2026 digital economy. So, Australia, XRP, central bank, CBDC, incredible news. Ripple, UK, EU, one more step forward, incredible news. On that note, we have reached also the endings of tonight's level. On that note, we have also reached the ending of tonight's essentially live show. This was the CMF live show. It stands essentially for Crypto Mouse Family. My name is Miles. You can tune to this live Monday, Friday, 10 p.m. London time onwards. The most recent news regarding cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, and regulations. Disclaimer of this live show, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. Also, if you haven't checked it out, go and check out the Spotify essentially for this live show as well. The CMF live show is now also on Spotify. So if you are someone that uses Spotify, you can listen to the CMF live show on Spotify. Now, before we do go, obviously, let's start the comment section first. That's what's happening there. And then we will call it tonight and see everybody back on Monday. So let's see where we're at. Yes, I wholeheartedly agree about the politicians. Yes, let's go. Miles, many governments are against Iran's war against Trump and Netanyahu. Yes, as I've said previously, if any government, any politician, any prime minister, any CEO comes out, or any athlete or celebrity comes out in favor of the Islamic Republic of Iran, then they are scum. And they also essentially, that means they support the Iranian government. Any celebrity, athlete, CEO, president, prime minister, politician, whoever it may be, if they come out in support of the Islamic Republic of Iran, they are rats. Full stop. Absolute rats. It means that they are being paid by the Iranian government. That means that they are the Iranian government's lapdog, like that guy from CNN. There's a guy right now from CNN. He's a news reporter in Iran right now. He's the only person that's been approved to enter Iran multiple times. That man from CNN is Iran's lapdog. He's a labradoodle. Before we go, let's see where else were we. Many countries are getting hit with missiles and are highly upset about the war, which is also true. Yeah. Anybody not finding it surprising that? So you know what's interesting as well? One school gets hit in Iran, and they're trying to say that the Americans did it, and there's Americans coming out. Yeah, we did it as well. They didn't. It was the Iranian government. Ironically, Iran is missiling luxury hotels, apartments, and anything else they can in the Gulf region, and nobody's talking about it. But other way around, missile hits a school in Iran, everybody's talking about it. But Iran hits a hotel in the UAE with a missile, nobody's talking about it. Iran hits essentially a villa in the UAE, nobody's talking about it. Iran could hit any public place they want to in the Middle East, and nobody will talk about it. But other way around, if anything hits the Islamic Republic of Iran, it's first page news. My concern is the loss of life. Americans reported and Iranians reported. I hate the innocent Israelis are losing their lives too. Yeah, you make a good point, Miles. Immigration. The Iranians are not immigrating. Usually during uprising, people do immigrate. Facts, yes. And also, why is this war so different? Because Syria, Iraq, every other country in the Middle East, Libya, Syria, essentially Lebanon, Iraq, you name it, every other country that's went through war, Afghanistan, every country that's went through war, people tend to immigrate. The retail section will immigrate quickly to the West. In Iran, nobody's immigrating. The only people that are running away from essentially Iran are the government workers and the diplomats. The Iranian people are standing in Iran. That's why every Iranian is telling everybody online that this is different. This is different to any other war the Middle East has ever had. Because the Iranian people are not running away from their country. They want to take their country back from the Islamic Republic of Iran. Every single person who works for the Islamic Republic of Iran as a government member or a sponsor is a rat and deserves to be wiped out clean by Israel and US. And also, I just want to say thank you to every single American soldier out there who is risking their lives, or Israeli soldier out there who is risking their lives for the Iranian people. And I'm sorry for also the losses the Americans have had regarding their soldiers. I'm deeply sorry about that as well. But they died for a good cause, freeing the Iranian people. So I just wanted to say that as well. I am genuinely sorry for all the losses the Americans have taken during this war. For 4 or 6 losses they've taken so far, That's sad to hear. And I hope there's no more losses on the American side, just extreme amount of losses from the Iranian government. I hope every single one of them get removed from the surface of this planet. You make a good, yep. Wow, that's awesome. They are talking about using another chain. This is big. Yes, it is. Are more governments going to fall? It is a strategy for moving towards a one world before 2030. Yes. North Korea needs to fall next. Great program, Miles. See you on Monday. Let's go, Scott. See you on Monday, same time as usual. What's your take on X Money connections? There's connections definitely between X Money and Ripple out there, 100%. There's definitely connections out there. Riverbank, obviously being essentially a Ripple partner, they're also the backbone of X Money. It makes sense, Elon Musk for the longest time saying he wants to create the next WeChat. He wants X to control half the payments of the world. It makes a lot of sense, essentially, for him to be using XRP Ledger as a backbone. And Riverbank is a partner of Ripple. I think there's genuine connection there, you could say. Good question. Good night, Miles, and all the CMF. Thank you for a great live and news. Have a great weekend. Let's go, JP. Have a great weekend as well. See you on Monday, same time as usual. Thank you, Miles. Have a great weekend. Let's go, Mike. See you on Monday, same time as usual, brother. Good night, Miles and family. Great live. Many thanks. See you on Monday. Great time. Great. Have a great weekend, Miles. Ian, let's go. Have a great weekend as well. Thank you for the latest updates, Miles. Have a nice weekend. Oh, let's go, Lena. Have a nice weekend as well. Good night, Miles and CMF. Great news. Have a great weekend. Let's go free forever. Have a great weekend as well. See you on Monday. Thank you, Miles. Have a great weekend, everyone. Let's go, Stormy. See you on Monday, same time as usual as well. Thanks, Miles. Good night, brother. See you on Monday. T. See you on Monday, same time as usual as well. Share the live. Let's go, Scott. Thank you so much. See you on Monday, same time as usual, brother. Night, Miles and CMF. Have a nice weekend, everyone. Let's go, Joe. See you on Monday, same time as usual. Name calling, brilliant, genius. Let's go, Stephen. That is true. Let's go, Scott. Hot and spicy live tonight. Reminder: all love, nothing personal. Come on, peeps. Take care, Miles and CMF. Ray, let's go. See you tomorrow at the same time as usual. Good night, Miles. See you on Monday evening. Cali, see you on Monday, same time as usual. I read today that Russia is sharing intelligence on US military locations. I wouldn't be surprised. Putin is a bit slimy sometimes. Check out Miles' Substacks, tremendous info. Thank you, JP, for saying that. If you want to understand war and money better, read my Substacks. All facts, no running away from this Middle Eastern war. Let's go, Miles. The timing of this war is also interesting and right. Facts, Callie, let's go. Thanks for saying that, Miles. Let's go, Scott. Hi, Miles. I'm late, but I watch again your live and share it with my brother. Thank you so much, Carl, for that as well. Good to see you, brother. Thanks, Miles. Enjoy your weekend. All. Let's go, Shelly. Enjoy your weekend as well. Good night, Miles. The platform you gave it yours, right? M. E. Good night, Miles. The platform you gave it is yours, right? Em? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Now, I will see everybody on Monday, same timing as usual. Everybody have a great weekend, no matter where you are, CMF members. Love you all. See you essentially on Monday, same time as usual. Yesterday's Substack was outstanding. Thank you so much, Scott, for saying that. If you haven't checked out my Substacks, go and check them out. Believe me, you will have a better understanding of how this world operates. I've broken it down so much that a child can understand essentially what I've written because I wanted everyone to have a better understanding. And if I make it too complicated or too institutional, then it wouldn't work because I'm not helping everyone to have a better understanding. So I've broken it down so much that it's just so easy to understand. So go and check out my Substacks if you haven't already, especially the one about the war, which was today. I'll see everybody on yesterday as well. I'll see everybody essentially on Monday, same time as usual. Everybody have a great day, good night, great day or great night, depending where you're around the world, members. Have a great weekend. Like, follow, retweet, subscribe if you already haven't. If you have, thank you so much. Love you all. Disclaimer once again: no financial advice, no political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. Love you all. See you on Monday, same time as usual.